Machlokes Hillel and Shammai. I mean, Hillel and Shammai themselves only argued 3 times, the Gemara says. Why not is it, and does it mean we have to see whether it means base Hillel or base Shammai? Is it specifically Hillel and Shammai? What about other people who are famous disputants? You have Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Tarfon, you have Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. We're chaylik scores of times throughout Shas. Why is it, or is there something in the Machlokes Hillel and Shammai that is l'shem Shamayim different than Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda? But it's even more, says the Chidah. It doesn't just say the Machlokes, Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai. It seems to be pinpointing a specific Machlokes that they have. It doesn't say these are the arguments. Elu machlokusam shel Hillel v'Shammai. It's a b'loshen yochid. Ezehu hi machlokes shehi l'shem shamayim. Which is the argument that this is l'shem shamayim? Sounds like it's identifying one particular machlokes. This is the machlokes Hillel. Was there one machlokes Hillel and Shammai that's l'shem shamayim? Is that what the Mishnah is trying to say? The other ones were not? Says the Chidah, what the Mishnah is trying to hint to us is, there's a specific machlokes Hillel and Shammai had, which is the exact same machlokes Korach v'chol Dasai had against Moshe Rabbeinu. They were arguing in the same thing. How so? There's one machlokes Hillel and Shammai that is the predicate of every other, I should say, Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, that is the predicate of every other machlokes Beis Hillel and Shammai. Beis Shammai. The Gemara in Yevamos, Hillel said, the halacha should be like us, Achrei Rabbi Mahatos, and we have the majority. Shammai said that's when all things are equal. But Anan dechadati tvei, we're sharper, we're wiser than you. Then you go after the quality, not the quantity. The echos, not the kamus. So they had an argument that allowed for every other argument they had, which is how do you paskin? Do you go after, is it majority rules, or do you go after, the smarter, the wiser people? That specific machlokes that is a machlokes between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, says the Chidah, is the exact same machlokes Korach v'chol Adasai against Moshe Rabbeinu. Which the way he reads Korach's wording in his complaint to Moshe is Rav lochem. Korach said, Rav lochem. You have the Rav. You have the majority. You have Achrei Rabbi Mahat, you have the majority, most of Klal Yisrael is on your side. But us, I have the 250 Roshis and Hedrias. I have Dasan V'Aviram. I have the elite in Klal Yisrael. So Rav is on your side, but Kol Ha'eda Kulam Kedoshim. My Eda, we're the Kedoshim. We're the elite among Klal Yisrael, says the Chidah. And therefore, it's not... We don't say Achrei Rabbi Mahatos. We go after the same. We go after the quality, the greater people. Says the Chidah. It comes out that they're both arguing. Shammai, Beis Shammai, and Beis Hillel had an argument in the same thing that later on Korach and Vadasai argued against Moshe. Do you go after the majority, or do you go after the quality of the people? One side could be l'shem shamayim. They're arguing the exact same thing, and one side could be shalol l'shem shamayim. But it goes even a step further. It's not only that they're arguing about the same thing. The shita that Shammai held, that shita that Korach later on held, that you go after the quality, not the quantity, that might be the psak la'asad lavai. We've all heard that now, the way Rav Dessler writes, he has a few pieces about this, that right now we're in an olam of chesed. The initial kavanah was to have an olam of din, Hashem shitifim merachamim. Shammai is a bal din, klape the chesed of Hillel. Therefore, right now we're living in an olam of chesed. The din is with Hillel. La'asad lavai, we've all heard this, that the din will revert to Beis Shammai. They bring in the Kisvei Arizal, the same thing is brought. That's really where Rav Dessler is basing it on. La'asad Lavai, the Shammai's opinion's going to hold sway. Korach, who is he? He's a Levi. What shaykhut does a Levi have to be a Kohen Gadol? So maybe we've also seen that La'asad Lavai, Svarim say, again from the Arizal, the Shalah brings this La'asad Lavai, the Leviim will become the Kahanim. The Navi in Yecheskel describes the Bai Shlishi, V'hakohanim haLeviim. Yes, many say it means the Leviim will also serve as Kahanim. Al Pi Kabbalah, as the Chidah brings, the Kahanim will be La'asad Lavai. The Oivdim in the Mikdash will be the Leviim. So that is not only the same argument, that is what will be in the future. What Korach is arguing is the Leviim are supposed to be. I, as a Levi, should be this. I'm not going to bring up the Zohar that very controversial. The Zohar that says that La'asad Lavi, the Kohen Gadol, will be Korach, Tzadik Katoma Yifrach, the Sof Tevis is Korach. I know my Rabbi Weinberg said it must be a Ziyuf. It's not Shaykh that Korach will be the Kohen Gadol La'asad Lavi, but the same argument Shammai and Hillel had that was L'Shem Shemayim. That same argument is being made by Korach v'Chol Adasai against Moshe, making the same point, maybe making a point that will be the halach in the future. It is Shalom L'Shem Shemayim, because it's not only what you're arguing, it's how you go about it, what you do to win the argument. It's all the other things that factor in. So you might have a good point, but if you act like Korach did, if you go and do things that are horrendous, ein l'chelak olam haba, ein sofil iskayim. That's the Chidah's pshat. With Aaron Volkin, Bavus for the Sefer Beis Aaron, he has a Sefer of Drushes, Metzach Aaron. Here's another very interesting diak, Pasha the diak. And the Machlokes L'Shem Shemayim is Hillel and Shammai. Doesn't say Beis Hillel or Beis Shammai. Doesn't say Hillel or Beisai, Shammai or Beisai. It's Hillel and Shammai. The Machlokes Shalai L'Shem Shemayim, it's the Machlokes Korach of Chol Adasai. It's like Korach Ubeisai. It's the Talmidim, it's the underlings, the people who went along with him. Why is there a chiluk over here? Says Avraham Volkin. You want to know what a machlokes l'shem shemaim is supposed to look like? Because again, you have machloksim a lot of times, and the machloksim are the two tzedadim to the machlokes. They're both chashiv, they're gedolei hador, they're important people. They're people that have lived in erlich life. The way to see whether it's L'Shem Shemayim is how it comes out in the Talmidim. Where's the argument being fought? Is it being fought by the principals, or are the Talmidim, the Hasidim, all the Nach schleppers in the argument, are they getting involved over here? He says what should happen is in the Machlokes L'Shem Shemayim, the two Gedolim get, so to speak, into the boxing ring. The Talmidim are sitting ringside, and the Rebbeim, the Gedolim, are having a Melchemta Shel Torah, and they're discussing, they're arguing, they're being chaylik. When one side concedes to the other, the Talmidim will all realign their position, and everything is nice. What happens if the Talmidim sitting ringside are jeering, they're saying, hit him harder, Rebbe, get him, they're also part of the machlokes. They're fomenting problems, they're getting involved. Who are they? They're the Talmidim, they're the Beisai, they're not the people who are shaykh to the machlokes. As wrong as Korach was, says Avraham Volkin, as wrong as Korach was, he was still a heavyweight. He was in Moshe's division. And he was a proper disputant for Moshe. It's all the people who got involved afterwards. It's all the people who joined in and, joined with Korach to egg him on, to go along and to fight against Moshe. It's not their fight. This is a fight between Korach and Moshe Rabbeinu. They're the worthy, as wrong as he was, he's the worthy disputant. The taina is, as the Mishnah is telling you, it's L'Shem Shemayim when it's Dafka Shammai and Hillel, when the two Gedolim are involved. Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, like the Gemara says. I mean, how bad it was. Shirabu Talmidim Shaloshim Shukol Tzorchen, what Chazal say about the Machlokes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, that's not the same L'Shem Shemayim as it was by Hillel and Shammai. In contrast to that, we have Korach of Choladasai, when you have all the people getting involved and adding in and just heaping insult onto, adding salt, fuel to the fire, there ruins everything. That what comes out is that the real bad people in the Machloikas, it's not as bad as Korach was. It's the Talmidim, it's the Nachschleppers, it's the people who joined in. They're the ones, it's not their fight. Who are they to get involved? Korach's the Gadol, Korach's the Pikeach. He was a worthy contender against Moshe. It's all the Talmidim who are the ones who are really doing the thing wrong. And it fits in maybe very beautifully with the Gemara in Sanhedrin. The Lashon is, Adas Korach. It doesn't say Korach v'adasai ein lahem chelek la'olam haba. Adas Korach ein lahem chelek la'olam haba. Rebuv Magalis and Magalis Sayam brings from Kadmoinim that Korach does have a share la'asad lavai. He's not totally. Again, I'm not going to talk about that Zayir, but it's the Adas Korach. It's all the Talmidim who got involved, the people who joined. Who are they? That's what causes usually most of the problems, and they're the ones who Ein Lahem Chelek La'olam Haba. It reminds me of, there's a Rabbi Yaakov Emden and Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. They bring the Maisa that after Pesach once, Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz was traveling incognito. He comes to a shul, and after davening, he hears the people saying, "You heard what Rabbi Yaakov Emden said. You heard what Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz did." They were saying lashon haras, true, how untrue they were. He wanted to go and give them some techacha, but to go ahead and say, "Hey, I'm Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz, don't talk about me this way," they're going to give it to him. So he asked them a kasha. We just finished the Seder. We had the Chad Gadya story. And what happens? The Shunra makes an unprovoked attack on the God, so it's a bad cat. The dog that sticks up for the poor defenseless God is a good dog. So if it's a bad cat and a good dog, help me out with this, then the stick is bad, the fire is good, the water is bad, the ox is good, the sheichet is bad, the Malach HaMavis is good, and Kaviyachol, Rabbeinu Shalom. What's the pshat? He asked them, and they didn't have an answer. So he said, just because the cat was wrong, the shunir was wrong for its attack against the God, that doesn't make the dog right for mishing into someone else's fight. And if anything, it all reversed. It's like they're all wrong. I mean, I haven't seen that story inside in a while. So he's saying, if I and Rabbi, now he disclosed who he was, if I and Rabbi Yaakov Emden are having a machloikas, that's our machloikas. We're capable opponents. But everyone else who's getting involved in Michigan, all of you are the ones who are wrong, and us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to come and give it to everyone what they deserve. It's the Talmidim, it's the people who are not party, because it's usually the Gedolim who do it with derech eretz, who do it properly. There's a couple different hesberim in the Mishnah. Couple other beautiful veriter I've seen, the Geya Machloikas. The pasuk says that Moshe went to Dasan V'Aviram. He wanted to speak to Dasan V'Aviram. He didn't send for them. He went personally to them. Says Rashi brings that mekan she'ein machzikin b'machloikas. You're not allowed to hold on to a muchzik. You can't hold on to a machloikas. You got to try and end the machloikas. He went out of his way to end the machloikas. So this says, if he wouldn't have gone to them, does that make him a person who's machzik b'machloikas? If he would have just called for Dasan and Aviram to come to him, he went to them, they refused anyway. But if he would have gone to them, if he would have called for them, is he a machzik b'machloikas? By not going, is he machzik b'machloikas? Reb Shimon Sofer says a different shot machzik b'machloikas. Doesn't just mean he held on to it and maintained the argument. Machzik is malashon chazaka. Dasan and Aviram were repeat offenders. They've been here and done the same thing. They've been for decades. They've been after Moshe Rabbeinu. When he had to flee Mitzrayim, they're the ones who threatened him and were malshin on Moshe Rabbeinu. When it came to the man, and Moshe said, "Don't eat the man today. Don't leave anything over till night." They're the two people who left it over and it became worms. And then what did they do on Shabbos? They threw them out on the ground in order to discredit Moshe Rabbeinu. And now they're going along with Korach and his fight against Moshe. They're joining in. They're people that have 3 strikes and you're out. They're muchsik b'machloikes. They're people who have done this. They have no respect for Moshe. They've proven it over time. I'm going to now go ahead and give them another chance. I'm going to try to get them to change. They're not going to change. They've proven who they were. There's nothing I can do about it. Moshe went to them, says Chazal, nonetheless that they were people who really should have been, you throw away the key, 3 strikes and you're out. Ein machmikan, that ein machazikin b'machloikas. There's no concept of chazaka. Even though you think it's not going to help, the person's never going to change, he's a reprobate, and nothing will change this situation. If there's an opportunity to create shalom, you have to go out of your way again and again and again. That's what Shimon Sofer says. See, another beautiful thing, and I know I wanted to tie them all together, I'm not. The Sfas Emes brings a Zohar. Very interesting. The Lashon of the Zohar is Vayikach Korach, Targum is Vispalik Korach, he was cholek, he argued. The Zohar says that he argued on Shalom and he argued on Shabbos. This meant us, where is Korach arguing on Shabbos? So Sfas Emes asks, and he talks about it. Also, what does Moshe tell them? Boker v'yoda, says Rashi, in the morning you will know, the morning will let you know, that just like you cannot be Mashana morning to night and night to morning, you cannot be Mashana Aaron from his tafkid of being the Kohen Gadol. So Moshe used day and night, morning and night, as an analogy. You can't turn morning into night, you can't take away Aaron from his position. Was Moshe, why use that analogy? Maybe there's no better one, but was Korach in any way advocating turning day into night and night into day? It's an interesting way to bring up an analogy. You can't turn day into night. The Eitzer at Phyllis brings from Aram Pano, the Baal Asor Mamoris, unbelievable medrash. Shabbos is called, we have it in davening, Chemdes Hayamim. It is the coveted of the days. So we think that means it's the most, there are 6 days of the week, and Shabbos is the Chemdes, the most coveted, the most special of the days. Rambam Pano brings a medrash. He says, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu initially created a world 6 days long, each day being 28 hours. I think 6 times 28 is 168, which is how many hours there are in a 7-day week of 24 hours. 6 days, 28 hours each. The days went to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, no, we have to have a manhig, we have to have a leader, we have to have someone on top of us that we look forward to, that is our guide, that is the focus of everything else. And each one of the days donated 4 hours. They all donated 4 hours times the 6 days. That created a 7th day of 24 hours. They went from 28 to 24, and we now have a 7th day of Shabbos. That says Maram Apano is the pshat Chemdes Hayamim. Doesn't mean it's the most desired of the days. It was Chemdes Hayamim. The days wanted that. The days were begged. We need to have a day. We need to have a day on top of us. We need a day to look up to. Shabbos represents the fact that we have a Shabbos, a day apart from everything else, indicates to us that there has to be a leader, that there is not equality, that not everyone's the same, that there has to be a leader on top of everyone else, and that's the day of Shabbos. Korach, when he was chaylik on Moshe, and he's saying, Ki kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim, we're all equal, you're no better than anyone else, why are you any better than anyone else, who are you to lord it over us? He's being chaylik on what Shabbos represents, representing the fact that there is a day that's more important than everything else. There is a day that is the key and focus of the entire week. Vayikach Korach, he was chaylik on Shabbos, and Memela, he was chaylik on what Shabbos represents, and that's why Moshe says to him, Boker v'yoda, Just like you can't transform day into night and night into day, you can't take away Aaron from his position. There are guidelines, there are people who have a higher calling in life. Korach Lishitasai, who wants to say Kikola Eda Kulam Kedoshim, he was advocating going back to the old cheshbon of 6 days, 28 hours, and if you'll do that, after 2 or 3 days, what we now would call night will become day. What we now have as day will become night because the hours are switching. You're going from 7 days of 24 hours to 6 days of 28 hours, and Moshe was saying that cannot be. There has to be a leader, there has to be this recognition that there are people above everyone else in order to give the inspiration to others, or something like that.